Hello, hello, hello. Just wanted to get on here this morning and encourage somebody. I hope that everyone is having a good day. I'm out. As you can see, I'm outside here. I'm out on the walking trail on my morning walk. And I just wanted to get on here and be an encouragement to somebody this morning. So I just wanted to talk about, because as I've been walking, I've just been thinking, you know how sometimes we could take things for granted. And even something as simple as walking, we could take it for granted. And as I was walking this morning, I started to think about, there was a time, and I knew, it's funny because I knew at some point I was going to have to talk about this. I didn't know when. I've been feeling like I needed to talk about it, and I didn't know how it was going to come about. So I guess while I'm on the walk, we're just going to have a little bit of a story time. Okay. See how beautiful it is out here, guys. It's really beautiful. Can you see that? Just really, really beautiful out here, and it feels so nice. So as I was walking and I'm soaking in all of nature's air, I started thinking about the time to where just thinking about just how good God is, because he's so good. He's so great, and he's been so great to me. So there was a time, y'all, where I didn't have the ability to walk. So that's why I'm so thankful on today, because there was a time that I couldn't even do what I'm doing right now. It was a long time ago, and I've talked about it before on an individual basis, but not to the point of like out in this, in this way. I've only talked about it mainly like on an individual basis. Oh, okay. So okay. So it's been about, I'm going to say probably was in 2000. So it was about 24 years now. It's been about 24 years. It was a long time ago. I was very young. And I wasn't going to say my age, but I'm actually very proud of my age, because if it wasn't for God, I wouldn't even be here to be the age that I am today. So I'm definitely not going to be ashamed of my age in any way. So I was 19 years old in 2000. I'm 44 now. But at the time when this happened, I was 19 years old. And I was driving along, traveling with my significant other at the time. And we were traveling back home because I was in college. So this was before kids or any of that stuff. We were traveling back home, and we got into a car accident. And you guys, the magnitude of the car accident, I really can't fully describe of how bad it actually was, because when the accident happened itself, I don't remember. I don't remember all the full details of what actually happened in the car accident. But I remember we were on our way back home, and I was driving, and then that's the last thing that I truly remember. So now what I could say is based off what I was told, because I remember driving, and then I remember waking up in the hospital. So the time in between there, I have very little recollection of, little to none, actually. So the bulk of that part of it was actually told to me by my significant other at that time. So when I woke up, I remember being in the hospital, and I remember trying to get up and wondering why I couldn't get up. And there was a nurse in there, and they were, there to stop me right away and say, no, you can't get up. You can't get up. And I couldn't understand why. And I saw at that point I wasn't able to move my legs to be able to get up. And that's when they told me, you have been in a car accident, and it was pretty bad. And I couldn't move my legs because I had had surgery on both of my legs. So going back to what I was told happened in the actual accident itself. So he told me that we were driving along, and I guess there was somebody that was swerving through traffic, driving really wild. You know how some people do, especially when we're driving on the interstate. Sometimes, we can drive a little wild. So they were driving around and kind of swerving through traffic. And apparently something must have occurred to where they were either looking as if they were going to hit me, or we ran off the road. I believe he said we ran off the road some kind of way. And when we ran off the road, we ended up rearing off of the interstate to the right side, going over. The car went over into a ditch. But before it went into the ditch was cement. It was a cemented ditch area. But before it went into the ditch, it hit a tree, and then the car flipped over. And this was a little car, you guys. It was maybe like a Honda Civic or something to that effect. It was a long time ago, so I'm trying to remember exactly what it was. I think it was a Honda Civic. But the car went over into this little ditch area, and it kind of went up, and it hit a tree, and then it flipped over. Now, from what he shared with me, is that it flipped over, and then it flipped back over on the side that it was supposed to be. So I guess it flipped twice, because it flipped when it first hit the tree over, but it didn't stay upside down. It flipped back up to its right side up. And again, you guys, I don't remember any of this. I don't remember none at all. He said at some point during this time I was awake. I was screaming. I was in some type of shock. And then he said I wasn't screaming anymore. And I wasn't. Initially, he said I wasn't screaming. I wasn't making any noise. So he actually thought that I was gone already. Because he remembered being able to get out of the car. He couldn't hardly see. And he was a really tall guy, really tall, big guy. So he got out of the car, and he couldn't hardly see because there were some injuries on his face. And I think he said he'd try to come around to check and make sure I was okay. But he couldn't. He didn't hear me making any kind of noise. He couldn't get me out of the car. So he thought that I was already gone. I'm guessing at some point somebody saw what happened, or somebody was near. Somebody ended up calling 911 and having the emergency services come. There was no other vehicle. In the accident, because again, it was just the one car that kind of drove us off the road. And then kind of drove us off the road, and then it kept going. So we were over there, left in the one vehicle accident. So from what I was told from this point, when the ambulance got there, they automatically thought that anybody that was involved in this accident, from what they saw, how bad the vehicle was, and I wish I had pictures that I could put up. It was a long time ago, so I don't have any of that anymore. But the way they saw the car, and they saw how bad it looked, and when they pulled up, they automatically pulled out the body bags, because they looking at that, they figured there was no way possible, no earthly way possible, that anybody would have survived that accident the way the vehicle looked. They hadn't seen him when they first got up there until, I don't know exactly where he was. I told you I don't remember any of what was actually going on during that time. But I know they said that they pulled out the body bags right away, because the assumption was that anybody that was involved in that vehicle car accident was no longer alive. But when they got up there, you guys, oh my God. And I know everybody has some type of testimony, but this is the first one. This is the first one for me. I was very young. I was 19. So this is something that will always stick out in my mind, because this accident alone could definitely have taken me out of here, and I would not be here in this very moment at the age of 44, being able to walk at this walking park and enjoy life today if it wasn't for God. So when they pulled up and they pulled out those body bags, they just knew that there was nobody going to be alive. So when they got up there, though, they realized they saw him, and they immediately got him and saw that he was still alive. They were able to get him. I believe they life flighted him somewhere. Again, these are just parts of the story that I'm trying to remember. These are just parts of the story I'm trying to remember. And then I believe they had to cut me out of the car. So I think this is the time where he said that he heard me screaming, and that's how he knew that I was still alive, because I was screaming apparently during the time that they were trying to cut me out of the car. But they were able to cut me out, and at that time, I don't know what injuries they were able to see. They knew that there was something definitely going on with my legs. So back to me waking up in the hospital. When I woke up in the hospital, they told me that I had 2 surgeries on each leg. So there was a surgery on my right knee because it was crushed. There was surgery also on my left femur because it was broken. They eventually had to put a rod in that leg, which still remains today. That rod is still in there right now. As I'm walking this trail right now, it still remains. And then there were several other injuries, head injuries, other different cuts and things that had lacerations that were stitched up. But I believe I was in that hospital for about 3 weeks, for sure. It was about 3 weeks that I was in the hospital. And, it's still, even being in there, it's a blur. I know that people came to visit, people's family came and all that, but I don't remember everything. Good morning. But it was a lot, y'all. It was a lot. And even now, I vaguely remember people. Sorry, guys, I don't know what happened. I don't know how far, where I left off in the video. Something happened to the phone, but I'm back. So hopefully it wasn't a huge chunk of the video that was missed, or the story. If it is, I'm gonna have to go back and look at it and see. But just picking up where I last left off from what I was talking about, I remember coming back home and my mom taking me to the doctor, and I was actually having a really good day that day, even though I was still, always in pain and, going through this healing process. I was having a good day. I was feeling really positive, feeling like, things are going to be good. I'm going to get myself together. I'm going to go through this healing process. And when I'm done, I'll go back to school, go back and enroll, pick my life back up. So this day, when she took me to the doctor, I don't know if I asked the doctor or he just told me, but he was talking about, the process and how long it could take. And I remember him saying to me that, well, you sustained some really tough injuries to both of your legs. So it's a possibility that it will take you about 12 months to walk again. And you got to go to rehab. And you got to go through all this different process. So, and I heard what he said. He said it'll take about 12 months. I said 12 months. He said yes, to about a year from that time. And I want to say that time was probably in March or maybe mid-March. Yeah, I think it was about March, beginning of March at this time, maybe second week, something around that time. And when he said this, and I saw my mom look at me, and I just said, okay. I just said, okay to the doctor. And then after we left, we were leaving, we were in the car and we were on our way back home. My mom asked me, she said, what are your thoughts about what the doctor said to you? And I said, what do you mean? She said, the fact that he said that it could possibly take 12 months. What are your thoughts about that? How do you feel about that? I said, I feel like he's telling me what he's supposed to tell me based on the injuries that I have. I said, so I'm okay with what he's saying because he's telling me what he's supposed to tell me. She said, well, do you feel like it's going to take that long? I said, no, I don't think it's going to take that long for me. And I'm not worried about it taking that long. But I believe that he's telling me the truth based on what he knows. But I know it doesn't have to take that long. Because see, the thing is, I had a relationship with God very young. I was raised in the church. But I think during this time was really when my relationship, my faith, my true trusting in God really began for me. Because even though I heard what he said and how long he said it would take, I didn't feel like that was gonna be my story. I felt like it just wasn't gonna take that long for me. So I heard what he said, but I didn't receive what he said for me. Somebody might just need to hear that little piece right now. Today, you've gotten some news, you've heard something, and you've heard the report of the doctor. You've gotten some news that is unfavorable to what you need. But just know that just because it's said doesn't mean that that's how it has to be for you. even with getting on YouTube, just because it took somebody else a long time doesn't mean that it has to take that same amount of time for you. So I didn't fully receive that for me, other than hearing what he said. And so I remember going on about, my way and doing the things I needed to do, doing the therapy, the at-home therapy, the therapy at the therapeutic hospital, rehab, and for the next couple of weeks. And then I started wanting to, when I was at home, I started wanting to try and do some things on my own. So I would try to get up, and my family would constantly say, "Don't push it, don't push it. You don't want to push. You don't want to re-injure yourself because you're trying to push." I said, "I'm not trying to push. I'm not going to do anything more than what I can handle. I'm not going to do more than what I know I can do." So I started to each day do a little bit more and a little bit more, and I was getting stronger and stronger, to the point to where I didn't need the wheelchair anymore, and I was using a walker. A couple of times I was out. I did leave the house. I did go out. I think I went out maybe one time to an event, and I was in the wheelchair. And then I think after that, I didn't really go out much unless I had to go to the doctor or something to that effect. But after about a month or so, there was a church service that was going on. It was a revival, I think it was, and my family was going, and I think it was the last night, but I remember wanting to go that night, or feeling the need to go that night. And I don't know about, how other people feel about giving offerings and donations and tithes and all those different things to the church. But for me, I believe in, tithing and giving offerings and those sort of things. So I heard in my spirit that there was a certain amount of money I needed to put in the basket. It wasn't anything that anybody else said to me. I just felt it in my spirit. And so I was going to have my mom go to the ATM for me and get it. But when we pulled up to the ATM, I had to get out and get it. And I felt that in my spirit that I needed to get out. I needed to walk, use my walker, walk over there and take it out and come back. So it took a lot, but I was doing what I felt like I needed to do. Then I remember us getting to the service, and we were enjoying the service. And then as I'm sitting there, I remember the amount of money, and I have it, and I was gonna give it to somebody else to go and put it in the basket for me. And then I felt that in my spirit again, that I needed to get up and do it myself. I needed to make it around. So I did it. I didn't really want to, because there was a lot of people looking at me and all of that, and I didn't really like the attention like that. But I felt that in my spirit I needed to get up, and I needed to be the one to take it around and put it in the basket. So I did, and I got up there, and I remember getting up to the front, and as I got ready to put it inside the basket, the lady that was there, the guest, she grabbed my hand. And when she grabbed my hand, she held it for a second, and she said, "God said for your obedience, you'll have a speedy recovery." And I was just very thankful. And I praised God in that moment, because I believed it. So then I continued to go on. I left there, and I want to say again, that was in March. And y'all, from the time of that moment, that service, when I tell you The recovery was speedy, more like it was almost like a blur, just like everything else that happened in that same year. That service was in March. In May, in May, in May, in May of 2000. So y'all not hearing me. March is when that happened, the middle of March. But in May of 2000, which was 2 months max, 2 months max, I went back to school. I wasn't just walking. I went back to school in May and was enrolled in summer school, back to school. I had classes in the summer. So I was recovered to the point to where I could go back to school. I did have a walking stick that I used if necessary, but I never had to use it. I never had to use it. So coming from when the doctor said at the beginning of March that it'll be about 12 months, 12 months, 12 months is a year, a whole year, y'all. Within 2 months, I was back at college, back in school, walking around campus. And I've been walking ever since, y'all. So to be walking around this walking park this morning, this every time I'm able to walk, every time I'm taking a step, you can't take it for granted. Because I didn't know how it was going to turn out, but I knew that it wasn't going to look like what the doctor said. And I believed it. I believed it. And he did it. And not only that, God kept me alive. He kept me alive from that accident where I could have been dead. I could have not been here in this moment, but he kept me alive. So that lets me know that he kept me alive, y'all, for a reason. I am here for a reason. I am here in 2024 for a reason. There is a purpose that he kept me here. There's a purpose. And because he needed me still here, he kept me alive. So right now, there's somebody that feels like they don't need to be here. They may not have been in a bad accident, but things might look really bad for whatever reason right now around them. Things might look really bad around you. But just know that if you are here for a reason. He's keeping you alive. He is protecting you. He's keeping you. And he has a purpose and a plan for your life. So just don't give up. Just keep moving forward. That's just one of the many, many things that he's done in my life. And I'm so, so grateful. And as he leads me to tell things, I will tell. This is my first time today in all this time telling this testimony in this magnitude. I have told it on an individual basis, sporadically as I was led. But this time he's been nudging at me to share this. And today just was a perfect time as I'm walking, as I'm out here doing the thing that I wasn't able to do before, as I'm out here alive and well, able to talk to you, able to encourage you where I wouldn't have been here. So I'm just so thankful. And I hope that you're encouraged by this on today. Thank you. Okay, I'm back in the car now. I'm done with my walk. So I was able to go back and look at the video and see where I left off. I'm gonna try to remember the parts that I kind of that were cut out when the video cut out. So I think I left off where I was in the hospital, and I was kind of again, it was a blur for me to remember all the people that came to visit me. I do remember my dad coming to pick me up though. I was in college, so I had to withdraw. So he had to go to the school, he had to go to the dorm, pack up all my stuff. Then he had to go to the school and get all the paperwork and everything done for me to be withdrawn. Then he came to the hospital and he took me home. So we traveled back to where I'm from, and he did that. He did that by himself. We were riding, and it was really tough because we were in a van, so that did make it a little bit more comfortable. But it was just very tough because it was a very painful ride, very difficult ride back because of just having to try to adjust, and it was about a 4-hour drive. So I had to drive back in the condition, that I was in. I had to ride back for about 4 hours. So it was tough, but we got back home. And when I got back home, I think I talked about the part that you guys missed was me being very transparent, and being very vulnerable in my emotions, my ups and downs that I went throughout that time. From the time that I got home, right at the beginning, I had some really rough times as far as how I felt about what happened and what I was experiencing, because this was something very big for me. I had never had a broken bone or anything in my life. So to come from not really having any kind of injuries and any broken bones or anything, to come into having several broken bones and surgeries, and I hadn't had any hospitals, I hadn't had any of those things at all, to coming from one incident and all of that happening all at once. It was a very traumatic experience for me. And then not being able to take care of myself made it very difficult, because it wasn't just me not being able to walk. I wasn't able to get up. I wasn't able to go to the bathroom on my own. I wasn't able to even bathe myself. I had to have assistance with all of that. From the time of me leaving the hospital, I want to say that when I was in the hospital, I was already fairly thin, but by the time I left the hospital and came home, I think I was probably weighing at that time about 95 pounds. So I was very, very thin, not able to fit a lot of the clothing or anything that I already had. So I was just really going through a tough time. I had my moments where I felt positive, and then I also had my moments where I felt like, why me? Why am I going through this? Why did I have to experience this? So I definitely had my ups and downs during this time, and I want to be really transparent about it, because I don't want to sit here and act as though I was just positive and I was just up, in on a high and believing that everything was going to be great and turn out fine the whole time, because that's not the case. Even though I did believe, even though I felt like everything would be good, I would heal and I would be okay, while going through that, it was very hard to do. Having to depend on other people to help me, even just to go to the bathroom, to help me to clean myself. That was something. I was always very independent, even as a younger child. So to now have to be this dependent on other people at that age, I felt, I just felt like, I don't know. It just wasn't good. It wasn't good. And so I had my moments to where I was definitely in a place of feeling really bad, feeling even sorry for myself at times, wondering why me. But even when I would get to those times, my mom, she would always come in there, and she would recognize when I'm not in a good place, and she would not let me stay in that place. She would not let me stay in that mindset and thinking, feeling bad for myself, feeling sorry for myself, feeling like I don't want to get up, feeling like I don't want to move. She would not allow me to fall into a place of depression during this time, because that wasn't even me. And she knew that. And she knew that I did. She just wouldn't let it happen. Every time she felt like, I was feeling a little low, or I was giving off some kind of behavior showing that, she was stepping right in and not allowing me to stay in that place. So during that time, I believe when I came back in the video, I started talking about me getting up and trying to do things on my own. But during that time frame, it was a short time frame between me getting home and having those ups and downs, and then I had a doctor's appointment that I ended up going to, and I think I mentioned that in the other part of the video that it will be on here, what happened when I went to that doctor's appointment. But I did want to come in and try to fill in the gap to where it had left off. And I apologize again. I really don't know what happened. I don't know if I touched the record button. I don't know. You know, I'm not a pro at YouTube, so I don't really know what happened. But I definitely don't want this message to not get out, because I do feel like this is encouraging and this is necessary for somebody else to hear. Me going through this situation definitely was a thing that activated faith in me like I had never experienced before. It showed me that I could truly believe in something, and I can take the steps towards making that happen, and it'll happen. Because as I go into the other part and what the doctor told me about, you know, the time frame of me being able to walk, possibly no sooner than 12 months, you know, I didn't receive that for me. I heard it, but I didn't receive that for me. I believed that God kept me here. And I still believe it to this day, that I have a purpose. I do believe walking in the purpose, and everything that he has designed for me to do in this life, I want to do it. I don't want to be out here not fulfilling the purpose that he called me for because of me being fearful, or me you know, giving up, or me feeling like I don't see it working, so that means it may not be what he said to do. No, he did not say that there wouldn't be trials. He didn't say that there wouldn't be times where you fail in whatever process that he is sending each of us on. But there will be times. And you know what? Even in talking about me in my testimony about, you know, me getting in a car accident and all that, even when I was going through the process of healing and I started to try to get up and try to do things on my own, I had times where I fell. And it almost made me not want to get back up, because yeah, it hurt. When I fell, I had several times where when I was trying to start walking again, I fell. But had I not kept trying, it would have made it worse for me. It could have even caused me to not heal properly if I wouldn't have gotten back up. So just because we fail at something doesn't mean that we don't get back up. And he's asking for obedience. He's asking you to do something. He has asked you and given you instructions on how to do something specific. And he's just waiting on you to be obedient so that he can bless your life with it. Just like I received the speedy recovery in my body for being obedient, there is somebody, because of your obedience, he will change your life. He is going to turn your life around overnight, just if you just get on there and take the steps of what you can do. Don't worry about what you can't do. Just focus on the things that you can do. Even if it's the littlest thing, focus on the thing that you can do. I truly, truly hope that somebody is encouraged from my story today, from my testimony. I'm just so grateful, because as I was out here and I was able to walk this trail, you know, I just had to be, I began to be very thankful and praise God, because I know that there was a time that I could not do this. And I also know that there was a time that I could not even be here today if it wasn't for the grace of God. So I hope that this was encouraging to somebody, and know that you are here. He has kept you here for a purpose. And you don't want to sit on that. You don't want to focus on the things that are not going right, because that's not what he wants you to do. That's not what he wants you to do. He wants you to take the steps and keep moving forward and keep getting back up, because there's something on the other side waiting for you that you never imagined, that you could ever dream of. It's on the other side. But if you stop and if you don't keep going, you might stop right before you get to it. So I just wanted to be encouraging today, and I really hope that you were able to be encouraged by this. If you like what you heard, if you were able to be lifted up and motivated and encouraged by my personal story, my personal testimony, then please like, share, and comment. I'll be so grateful. It'll be so helpful to the channel. I really appreciate it. Bye-bye.